Yes, I was wondering. I feel like I came into awareness that there was an issue around month 12, something with a 12, 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going on at month 7 or 5 or 8 or whatever?
And you're saying what made me decide to finally start evicting as opposed to doing it way sooner?
Well, not even sooner, because in my, like, okay, so as an observer in my mind, I'm thinking moratorium.
Mm-hmm.
But then now it's getting ridiculous. That's about done.
Okay.
Prior to that, I'm like, what is your experience?
Yeah.
Even as a landlord, you're thinking, still it's a moratorium. I don't care. Because actually, my understanding of the moratorium is you're supposed to be trying to pay something.
Mm-hmm.
Not just...
Moratorium has nothing to do on your bills.
Yeah, yeah.
A moratorium just has everything to do to say that you can't kick people. Yeah, you can't do the court eviction process. It has nothing to do with it. Moratorium didn't forgive anybody for anything. Mm-hmm. Even if you put in for a forbearance with your mortgage company, remember that was still a process of paperwork that still had to be approved.
Yeah, yeah.
What paperwork does a tenant put into a landlord saying, I'm not going to pay? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There wasn't any official documents that said, da-da-da-da. So on that regards, it was supposed to be just two humans verbally communicating and verbally working something out and verbally coming up with agreements. But none of that happened. But my thing is, no, girl. Moratorium had nothing to do with it. And this is what I love about life and the universe. You don't have to know. I didn't know anything about a moratorium. Mm-hmm. I didn't do any research on what are the rules. I didn't do any research on nothing. I didn't even have to know anything about a forbearance because I knew I wasn't going to go get one. Mm-hmm. I don't care about a forbearance. Right. I wasn't in a position to need a forbearance, so why would I research something that I don't need and didn't anticipate needing? Because, you know, in my mind, I'm healthy, wealthy, and blessed. Mm-hmm. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And so the thing about it is what I love about life and what I love about creating your life is you get to go with your instincts, your feelings, your own personal emotions, regardless of what the news is doing. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, when we were talking about the vaccination thing, it's such a tricky thing because the news can F with our emotions, right? We end up getting emotions that we didn't even know what we had because somebody done said something. Somebody said, boo. Now we afraid of ghosts. But before the news came, we didn't even know ghosts exist. Right. So that's why I'm not a big fan of even watching the news or keeping up with that. Who cares, right? For me, in March, when she first didn't pay, remember I was on vacation. I stay on vacation. I was on a wonderful, amazing cruise, which people try to tell me then was try to get me scared of the cruise because of coronavirus. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going. And it turned out to be the most beautiful cruise ever. And I had no regrets. So the thing about it is I was on a cruise. I got off the cruise around March 13th. And that's when I realized that, oh, she didn't pay her rent. Mm-hmm. Because I had somebody checking for, you know, my mail and my rent and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, remember, I stayed in Miami. I was in Miami for a good 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so in Miami, I was communicating with her back and forth about the rent. And that's when she said, oh, I sent it. Oh, you didn't get it, right? But then later, like about March, April, May, around May or so, mm-hmm. she said she sent a money order. So I asked her to do a trace on the money order. So she did a trace and it was found and they reissued the money order. So the money order was never cash. Okay. Because again, you could say, well, if you had somebody checking for your mail, how you know they didn't take it? So the bottom line is the money order was reissued.
Okay.
So it wasn't cashed or nothing. So that money order was reissued and I have text messages where she's saying she's going to resend it once she gets it. Right. But in the meantime, what about the other months? Mm-hmm. You know, March. That was just March.
Okay.
So what about April, May, June? Like, what about all the other months?
Yeah.
And so she did resend me that reissued money order of $199 in July. Mm-hmm. What about everything else in between? And that's when she was saying, oh, every month. So I would just contact her about once a month. Around the beginning, like what's the story with the rent? Yeah, and it was always like, oh, I'm working on something, or oh, she was having some family issues with her children. Oh, she was in a fight. Things like that. So she always had an excuse, but never once was her excuse, oh, I have COVID. Or, oh, I lost a job. Or, oh, it was never that. It was always drama stuff. And then it turned into, I feel like from July, August, September, October. Like I said, I have the text messages. Yeah. I have to go through and really correlate the dates, which I'm probably not going to do. But the point is the dates are there. Yeah. Where it became, oh, I'm going to churches to get help. Oh, my family is sending money for help. Once she was doing all of that. And she was like, and I'm going to send you something. But she never sent me nothing. And one time we were on the phone and she was like, she said it again, I'm going to send you something. And I said, listen, you've been saying you was going to send something, but you've never sent anything, not even $20. So in the beginning, I feel like all the way till November, maybe, she was communicating in a way that was like, I'm about to, yeah. But it never happened.
That is so.
And then remember, in was it in June? The roof. Remember, her ceiling was leaking.
Yeah.
And we realized it was some roof issues. And so we were communicating back and forth a lot with that.
Right.
With having the roofers go out. Because I was still living in Miami at this point. And
Wait. The whole roof.
That whole roof happened. And she wasn't paying rent. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Girl.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Even as she wasn't paying rent, I was still doing great landlord duties. You know what I mean? I was still like making sure like if you go, as a matter of fact, I was looking at that when I went there, how beautiful that ceiling was. Because remember, that ceiling caved in from water damage.
Yeah.
And I was looking at how you couldn't even tell that ceiling had been redone. And that roof, we got a whole new roof. Yeah. All of this stuff, I was super responsive while she still hadn't paid rent. But the thing about it was I was never in my feelings about her not paying rent. I was never like, oh, I'm about to kick her out. Because at the same time, I was living my best life.
Yeah.
I was happy. I had a cushion built up in the rental account. At that point, I think her rent it started at like $199, then it was like $269, and then it went to $3 something. But she ended up owing me even more money because Section 8 has said, I forgot what happened. Something about they overpaid because she was supposed to do something and she didn't. And so therefore she had to repay me what was overpaid. So their next check to me was short because she had to pay the difference. But then she would say, oh, I can't pay you because I have to pay Section 8. And I was like, no, I called Section 8. You have to pay me. You're not paying Section 8. And I talked to her caseworker. Then her caseworker was like, no, she has to pay you. And she understands that. Exactly, because I got the letter in the mail and she did too. So, but like I said, I never felt this instinct. I never felt a push to say, move now. Do something now. And now I realize, after the fact, looking back, that we were in a moratorium and the courts were closed. You see what I'm saying? So even if I had tried to do something then, things were I was gonna feel the delay of that.
So that's hindsight. You weren't thinking, let's just be willy-nilly about whatever because we're in a moratorium.
No.
Yeah.
I wasn't even paying attention to them. No. I knew that there was a moratorium. Like, I heard word, but I didn't check to see what does that mean? How is that happening? So come to find out, the courts were closed. The courts were shut down. Come to find out, there was a chance that she could have fell within this gray area. Who knows? But I wasn't pressed. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't sweating it or trying to chase something because I knew that I wasn't in a financial bind.
Right.
And so for me, it was like, you know what? I was at that time, I was more so counting blessings than not counting blessings. And the blessings were, there's so many people out here, so many landlords out here who aren't getting anything because their tenants aren't on Section 8 or assistance. So they're getting zero. Boom, at least I'm getting something.
Right.
I was blessed because the mortgage on that place was only like $1,560.
Right.
And I think around at some point, Section 8, there was a point where Section 8 was paying at least that amount, and she just had to pay the difference. Remember, $269, the rent was $1,750. So she only had to pay $269. That meant that Section 8 was covering pretty much the mortgage.
Right.
So I wasn't sweating it, you know. So even if she wanted to work something out and say, I can pay this, I was going to work with her. I'm fine with that.
Right.
I would have even been fine with forgiving the you know, because I've done that before with loans, with people who took loans from me or whatever and never, you know, they was either slow paying it back or I could see it was a struggle for them to pay it back. And I'm like, you know what?
We good.
You know, take me out to dinner because, you know, I like to eat. We good. Like, it was no big deal for me. Then around December is when my money dried up in that rental account. And so I had to start adding to it with my own money, which was only $200 a month. I had to add my $200 a month to that account. But even then I did positive aspects about it. The positive aspect was I'm only pouring in $200 a month into my own investment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because every month I get more and more equity. Every month that the mortgage is paid down, you know.
You can't be in your mind like, I'm paying her rent.
Yeah. It's like I'm adding $200 to my own investment.
Yeah.
So even then, I'm in my budget. I moved rent because I think at one time I had it up here like more in an expense area of my budget. I moved it down to the investment area of my budget.
Okay.
Where I put my 401k, I put this much to my 401k, I put this much to my HSA, I put this much to paying extra on my mortgage. Now I put this much towards my rental investment.
Gotcha.
That's the way I did it in my mind. And I feel like this is what kept me from being like a victim and bitter and angry, right? But even in all of this, I was still trying to communicate with her. And at some point, she just stopped communicating with me altogether. But I didn't even notice because I wasn't sweating it like that. So I didn't even notice that, oh, I'll send her a text and never get nothing back. I didn't even notice that, oh, I'm calling her, but she never returned my call. I didn't even really notice,
girl,
you know. And so in May, when Section 8 sent me another increase on her rent, meaning that she had to pay I believe it was $569. That's when I said, okay, this is ridiculous. Because then it turned, with her having to pay $569, I had to stop moving $400 to that account to make the mortgage.
Right.
You know, on top of, at one point, I was still paying the security system, which was $70 a month on that house. I stopped that at some point. And then at some point, and then, you know, I still pay the HOA on that property. You know, so when then to have to add another $400, and she is just chilling, not even trying to answer a phone. I call, it's going straight to voicemail. That's when I made that video in May. And I made that video in May. I didn't even make the video because I wanted to make the video about her. I made the video, girl, because I forgot to pay the mortgage.
Oh, I remember that.
That's how the video started. My videos be going in a tangent. I made the video because it was like, y'all, because it's a financial channel. And so I wanted to expose myself like, y'all, I forgot to pay the mortgage. And then it turned into, but what had happened was, the reason why I forgot, because remember, y'all, remember, up until this point, nobody even knew I had a Section 8 tenant. I never even talked about that on the channel.
Yeah.
You know, people knew I had a rental property, but nobody even knew details on a rental property because I never even put the rental income in my budget.
Yeah.
Nor did I nor did I show the expenses of a rental income. The only time it was shown in my budget was when I had to use my own money from other sources to pay for something.
You were like, there's like 2 or 3 things you don't include. In your budget.
So that was never even part of my storyline.
Your bank account balance is not included in your assets. Yeah, like just
exactly, because it's a whole different bank.
Let me tell you a quick interlude with that. Why your channel is so helpful, energetically, because right around before January 2020, I heard a message from the universe that I needed to get ahead of my mortgage. I had been paying my mortgage after I got my rental income. They pay, then I pay. They pay, then I pay. Just always do it that way. Lots of people do it that way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, something just didn't feel right about that in January of 2020. And I was like, God, whatever you got to do to help me figure out these numbers to get ahead of it so I can pay on the 1st. I put my mortgage on auto pay. Just did what I was told to do.
Yeah.
Put it on auto pay. It came out on the 1st of January, 1st of February, 1st of March. March something to something, 16th or whatever it was, no rent.
Mm-hmm.
But I was ready.
Yeah,
I was already ready. So it's that thing of not waiting for so much desperation in order to make a move. And they had I had renting out rooms and they didn't have jobs. Something didn't come in. They lost hours. They da-da-da-da-da. But I was relieved because I listened and went ahead and took responsibility for my investment. It's not their responsibility to pay my investment while I'm over here spending whatever.
Exactly. And so that's why, for me, like I said, people's like, oh, I was so cool, calm, and collected. Because like you said, I was prepared. And then also, we always do the gratitude work. We always do the work of gratitude. Even when we're going through stuff that's not ideal, it's like, but let's rephrase this. Let's rethink of this. Let's count our blessings in this. Yeah. But then there comes a point where you have to stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can't sit there all hunky-dory feeling like God's going to work it out. Yeah, I mean, he is going to work it out, but he's only going to work out what you want to be worked out. Yeah. So if your energy toward a thing is, oh, God, don't worry, I'm a whipping board. Somebody can, use me, take advantage of me. You can be that too, because God don't care. It ain't that deep for God. Because at the end of the day, it's all okay. But when you say, wait a minute, God, my whole claim to this life is abundance, is, we are successful. We're winners. We thrive. Yeah. Everybody involved gets to thrive. Nobody gets to take advantage of the next person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you say, this is what I want, this is what I declare, this is what shall happen, we get to move forward in that direction too. So many people, even like in the Abraham-Hicks community, I'm not going to say so many people, one person had a feeling like, why don't you just let it go? I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. Just let it go. Does that mean just let her live there? Like, what does that even mean? Like, just let it go. Yeah. I don't know what that meant because I didn't even ask, well, what does that mean? Because it wasn't that I'm not harping on the situation. You would see me, you wouldn't even know that this is a thing. People in my life were more angry, not angry, that's too strong of a word, but were more irritated and fed up than I was. Yeah. So there wasn't nothing to just let go. But the bottom line is, as a business person, no, you get to handle your business. Mm-hmm. And that's holy too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we act like we have to be this bigger magnanimous person, and that means that we're shining in the light of the spirit. I don't know. But the bottom line is, no, you get to stay on top of your business, period. When it starts to affect you toxically, is it toxicity? When it starts to be toxic to you and you realize that you're more angry and bitter than anything, then you got to recheck yourself. But honestly, during this whole situation, I haven't been angry and bitter. I've been a little more entertained. There was a main day that I had a horrible down day.
To your point of urgency, if you let it keep going and be the bigger person and whatever the person is,
it's just going to keep going in that direction.
It's going to be, and that's another.
Because you could be faking it.
That's why I'm glad I watched the Fab. Because I'm having an experience where I haven't been paid rent in 2 months. October 1st will be 3 months. And I honestly, Fab Lady, don't think that I would be this urgent about it if I hadn't watched your channel. Real talk. I probably, and because it's somebody I know, and it's a friend, I've known her since 2009-ish, 8, something, I'd probably be like, oh, well.
Yeah. So that's the thing. You have to resolve your own emotions first.
Right.
And, and for me, in May, I had to get over the feeling sorry for her, feeling bad for her, feeling guilty for her, because that can dive in there too, where, things don't quite work out quite right, because really what the universe is responding to is your feelings of guilt, your feelings of bad, just all of that. But when I started deciding to walk in my own empowerment, like, no, I have a right to be treated right. I have a right to be a business person. I have a right to collect my money. I have a right to thrive. I have a right to not have to take losses. The universe responds to that too. you know, and it wasn't at anybody else's expense. Like, I'm clear about that. I don't ever want to come up off of somebody else's downfall. No, that ain't my thing, you know. But yeah, so that's what it was for me. It wasn't the moratorium. It wasn't anything. It was just that feeling that now's the time. And when I decided to walk in now's the time, turned out it was the perfect timing. The moratorium was over. You know what I'm saying? Courts were open back up. Just all of that stuff. Yeah. And so it just really worked out. And then even with everything that happened, everything that she did turned out to be to my advantage. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
They don't know.
They don't know. Because in our minds, we feel like we want it to be easy, just leave. But if you just left, she still left a trash, dirty place. You know? So this path was the best path. This is the path of least resistance.
Amen.
At the end of the day, everything I did was the path of least resistance. Even when not dealing with it, even when not starting the process, that was still the path of least resistance, because I was still able to feel super good and super happy about life. So there you have it.
Well, thank you. Who knew?
Who knew?